Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Another episode of A Puncher's Chance, episode 9. I was under the impression the entire editing process last time that it was episode 9. It turned out it was 8. So my numbers are off, but here we are, episode 9. Hope everything looks good, sounds good, feels good. Happy to be here with you guys. Happy Tuesday. It's a new one. First time on a Tuesday.
How are we doing, everyone?
It was a fun weekend since the last time out. We had a few things here and there. Didn't end up recording twice last week.
Yeah,
but
no,
here we are.
We weren't feeling super good.
Yeah, no, I mean
There was a bug in the air.
we were fighting it last week, and it turned out it got worse for you. It got better for me. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're back in action. But you went on a nice trip. You crossed the country a little bit. Let's get into it.
Yeah, man. Went across the country. Went to Denver for a work trip. We went to go see Colorado versus USC, and we went to the Colorado Rockies versus the Twins. What a bad franchise, man.
Twins, bad
Really.
franchise.
Both of them are historically not super good franchises. I think the Twins have a little bit more history. Like, they've actually won a World Series in their lives, but in the time that they've been a franchise. But Colorado Rockies, man, I will give them this. It's a top 5 stadium in the country.
Is it?
Beautiful stadium, and reminds me a little bit of Camden Yards with a little bit of Citizens Bank with a little bit of Pittsburgh. Like, for any of the baseball enthusiasts out there, you guys would love that stadium. Interesting because when you go to there, and I'll get to Colorado in a second with Deion Sanders and that whole situation. But when I went to the Rockies game, I couldn't help but think about like the Northeast attitude of what they look at when they talk about sports, like just the winning mentality of everything. And we're sitting next to some fans. We got a chance to talk to a lot of locals. And one of the things that the locals talked about a lot was just being happy to kind of be watching the game more so than like expecting a win. And it was interesting because think about what the Yankees, like the Yankees knew that they were out of playoff contention pretty recently, but even though they were still mathematically able to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We knew that we weren't going. So
Right.
once you recognize that like there was no chance for us to go to the playoffs anymore, the fan base the games and the amount of fans at the games probably went down like 70%.
Jeez.
Like, if you watch the day game for the Yankees within the last maybe 2 weeks, there might have been maybe 1,500 to 2,000 people in the outfield stands.
That's terrible.
When that's usually around like 25,000 people in the outfield stand. So, but that's the criteria that we hold ourselves to is we got to win.
Right.
And if we don't win, then we're not on the right page in that the fans are going to almost like essentially boycott the rest of the season in some ways. But place was packed. Fans loved being there, whether win, loss, or draw. And there's a good energy in the air there when it came to the stadium, but you could understand why people ain't trying to go play there. Players are not trying to go to play in Colorado.
A few thousand feet above sea level.
Different, man.
I've heard it's different. Never been there, but
Different. So we got there on Friday night, and immediately the first thing I noticed when I got outside the airport is the air is different, very different. It's almost thin, and you know that weird the term of thin air,
Yep.
It's very like it was about 60 to 65 degrees, and it felt like you were like almost inside. Like, you ever been like inside at room temperature and it feels great?
Yeah.
That's kind of how it felt, even when it was supposed to be cooler. Like, our 60 is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Like, you
it
could
is.
feel a breeze with that 60. And that's just part of the humidity that we have in the area. But it was different when I got out there. I was very surprised at the feeling I got. And then as soon as you get outside, if you haven't been in elevation before, that high of elevation, like 5,000 feet up, you end up just feel like you're breathing through a straw. But you can get yourself quickly acclimated, but altitude poisoning is real and altitude sickness is real. And I didn't know it was a deathly thing too. Like, if you don't, there's like 3 stages of it, and I can't remember all the 3 stages, but there's like an acute altitude sickness, there's like a major one, and then there's one that's like almost like dialysis. Like, that's where you're gonna get to, and it's a scary place. So drinks a ton of water. They told us to do. limit your exercise for the first like couple days you're there. I took a couple walks. There's actually at the Grand Hyatt that we stayed at, there was a rooftop that had a track on it.
Ooh.
Really cool. Really cool. So you get to see the whole city. We had a good time there. We had a good time. Denver's an interesting spot. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10.
I've always wanted to go to Denver. Never been there.
It's a place to definitely visit if you're into some of the mountainous activities and the mountain sports. And, you know, we weren't there for that particular time, which I was actually kind of disappointed in because we got to the Colorado Buffs game and it was hot. It was like 82 degrees.
Ooh.
And I wanted it to be cooler out. Like that kind of ruined some of my expectations. I wanted it to be cool and like I wanted to feel that October air a little bit, but I didn't get it. And so later, I do think I want to go back in a winter setting to see how it truly feels. But like maybe I feel like I'm asking for too much because I think this weekend there's a game this weekend in Colorado. And it's supposed to be like 35 degrees at night. It's like,
Maybe you hit the right weekend to go.
I think it was the perfect weekend to go.
Maybe you caught a break, but you know, I'm a cold weather guy at heart. I think you're a warm weather person usually.
No.
Really?
I'm really like cool. I'm a December baby.
Because,
So like,
well, based on your retirement plans, it was Caribbean, it was an island, it was South. So I kind of just
yes,
put you
I think
in
that's
the-
all. I think that's basically. I think it's based off of like trying to live a little longer when it's like getting vitamin D and staying in the sun as much as you can, and like it's good for your skin. It's good for overall longevity. But I want to learn the benefits of being in the winter. What are those benefits to you, like from a retirement standpoint?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I look at the benefits as much as I just enjoy being in the snow and enjoy
Sure.
the cold weather. Like, get me in a log cabin with snow on the ground,
Yeah.
a light snow, and I'm completely content. I'm all for the sun, obviously. So
Isn't it one thing I was thinking about too? Is like there's parts of New Jersey is such an interesting place where like you could feel like you want to live that way, and then there's parts of New Jersey where like I feel like I'm in the city area of New Jersey, which there's like couple parts of New Jersey that I feel that way, but mostly north. And you're in the place that's like central, which they would consider the beach. Like on average, if somebody dropped down from the universe and said, "Yeah, you told them you live in Central Jersey," people would identify that as the shore in the beach towns.
yeah, I've
You kind of live in the
noticed.
sticks.
I do. I mean, I've been told I live in the sticks, and
Yeah.
anybody that whenever I say what town I'm from in New Jersey, they're like, "Oh, that's the sticks." I'm
Yeah.
like, I mean, it is and it isn't. But being in the county that I live in, it's a beach town at heart. And
Yes,
I'm not
mentally it's a beach town. Yeah.
I'm not too far from the beach as it is, so I understand why they put me in that category.
For
but
sure.
They also say I'm in the sticks. I don't know. I've just never been a beach person. I've always been the cold weather person, the
Yeah.
snow
And
person.
you've had the beach next to you for your entire life, so it's similar. When we went to Colorado, I was just telling you prior, off camera, that I was surprised at how much weed I didn't see, and obviously it was the first place to legalize weed in the country, and didn't see any of it. And I think it's to that same point of you're near the beach, so you don't go to the beach.
Yeah.
So and now that you have it, you don't always do it. It's just
Right.
like it's accessible to you. So whenever you get a chance, like when even for people in Jersey, when we pump gas, the Jersey, we have attendants who pump our gas, but we don't even look at it as we look at it as like we're giving other people jobs as opposed to a luxury.
Yeah.
But other places, like my girl lives in Pennsylvania, and the Pennsylvanians are like, I wish someone pumped my gas.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I kind of love pumping my own gas.
It's nice, when I was
It's
down
easy.
in North Carolina, I would take that time when I'm pumping my gas to kind of just debrief from life for a minute.
100%.
And just sit there, look at the gas going up, understand that my money's going down the drain a little
Completely,
bit. But
yes.
it was a nice time to debrief and kind of just be.
Get you out the car.
It makes you do something, think about something else. Because, every time I go and get gas, it's usually like, all right, can you fill it up? And then I'm sitting there thinking about like work or life or something that's not as, maybe beneficial as getting
you take
out.
yourself out the setting every now and then.
Yeah.
It's
so,
nice.
All those people that pump their own gas, appreciate what you have.
Please appreciate it.
It is a luxury to not have to get out sometimes, especially in the winter. But,
Yeah.
there's benefits to both, I suppose.
Oh yeah. One of the things too I recognized when I was in Denver too. So going to the Colorado Buffs game. Shout out to Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffs. What an unbelievable atmosphere that is. college sports is such a it's so grandiose. It's such a big scale that until you go and see it, you don't realize how big it is. And I mean, when you're watching it on TV, you can recognize there's a lot of fans, but you don't recognize everything that goes on around it. Like there's the college game day, the other press that's there, to 90,000 fans, to the gear that people are buying, to the food trucks that were at Folsom Field. It was a full blown production. It seemed like an NFL game. And that was really cool about it. And I think it was probably bigger than an NFL game because you have more. The stands are all bleachers, so like you're not getting any actual seats.
Yeah.
So you can fit more people inside of a college stadium than you do an NFL stadium. College athletes I think they can be just as big as NFL players at some point if they keep going in the direction they're going, specifically football players, because I mean the amount of celebrities that Deion Sanders brought out there, like supposedly, I don't know if all this is true, but LeBron was there. I know DaBaby was there. I know Chauncey Billups, Kyle Lowry were still at this game. I know Cameron and Mace, I think, were at this game too. And don't quote me on this. There's a lot of people who were supposed to be there, but I mean, this is like a star-studded spot, man. Like the guys, we were actually on the plane with, I think it's Victor Rodriguez, who is a jeweler in New York. And I don't know if you saw it, but he gave Deion Sanders like a diamond.
I think I did see that.
It was a diamond whistle.
Yeah.
And a diamond whistle chain. I mean, this is a $100,000 piece right there. And I recognized him just because I had seen him on Instagram, but I knew that he was somebody, and then I saw him there, and then I saw the video, and I was like, wow, this actually makes a lot of sense. Like they had a chance to be around him. So just a really interesting atmosphere, man. And like college sports is so big in this country, but it's even bigger when you realize like you go to a place like Colorado and you go to Boulder, specifically outside of Denver, and that's the only thing in town. Like when you were talking about like even Tennessee, Knoxville's the only thing in town.
Right.
Like, and there's things in Knoxville, like I don't want to make it seem like it's no civilization except the college, but like it's essentially just the college, and they've created a unbelievable atmosphere about building it up into something that's like right under the NFL. And I mean, hats off to what Deion's doing, man. Colorado is a scene out there, and the people are really nice too. We sat behind some really cool people. Got a chance to talk to probably 100 locals, and Colorado's a really cool place, man. It's a really cool place, but it's very interesting. I couldn't live there, but I could totally visit and go back and do some more business. So
maybe
shout out to Colorado, man.
Maybe in the future. I feel like when we leave our area of the New York City, New Jersey area, we always say the people are nice because of where we are. I just think we are in a environment that is just generally you stay in your own lane. You don't really talk to other people much.
Yeah.
And not saying we don't talk to other people, but it's a different vibe than pretty much everywhere else.
It is. It's a different vibe because of the pace and how the proximity and positioning in which you are in when you live in this part of the country. Like between New York, Philadelphia, and New Jersey, just take those. That's like there's essentially 3 tri-states in the area we live in, and it's just so tight, man. Everybody's on top of each other. Everybody lives close by. I mean, with the respect to obviously where you live right here, like your neighbors are pretty spread out to a degree, and like that's just you're gonna see that everywhere. It's not like this is the only place that you do it, but by and large, like the density, especially in the cities, which is where people kind of identify. Like it's funny, right? With you, what city do you guys identify with more? Do you guys identify with being closer to New York or closer to Philadelphia?
That's an interesting.
Because you're actually in the middle.
I'm pretty much dead smack in the middle.
Yeah.
I can get to New York in
an hour and
the
15.
City, a little over an hour. I can get to Philly in probably the same amount, to be honest.
Well, so that's why I'm probably gonna end up moving back to Philly because, like, for me, it's actually further away from my place here to where I'm currently living to where I would be in Philly.
Yeah, for sure. And the drive is generally easier than going up.
So much easier.
I mean, man, being up there. But I don't know. I think I lean towards New York City more, at least in my area, especially the beach towns. I think identify with New York City more.
Okay.
I think I know people that are prefer Philadelphia more than New York City, but if I had to make a generalization for my area, it's gonna be New York City most of the time.
Yeah.
Based on the sports, I see more people as Yankee fans and Met fans than I do as Phillies fans.
Yeah.
I think Philadelphia fans are more tight knit and more. If you're not in Philadelphia, you're not a Philly fan as much.
At least if you're not in South Jersey, like, and they don't consider this South Jersey. I think South Jersey people consider this Central, and then they would consider after, I would say, maybe like New Brunswick North.
Yeah, I mean, there's that whole debate of Central
There's
Jersey.
a whole debate,
And
yeah.
Central Jersey is a real thing. And,
But North Jersey people would consider this South Jersey.
I mean, I guess. I don't know. I mean, you're a North Jersey person.
Well,
so
they
I
think
guess-
once you get past like Monroe on exit. No, not even. Honestly, they think if you get past like the Parkway,
That's crazy.
you're in
because
South Jersey.
Monroe is like north for us. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not the tip of the top, but it's north.
Yeah.
So, there's that whole debate. But my area leans towards New York City, I would say, as a majority. And then you have those few Philly fans. But
Yeah.
that's what I see. And that's what I at least think of myself. I'm more of a New York fan. But everybody's got their own cup of tea.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the biggest thing too, from the climate, climates are different from East to West Coast. And even in South Jersey and North Jersey, like, I think North Jersey definitely gets hammered with snow. Like, when it's like,
Yeah.
like, I don't know what this winter is going to be like in the fall, but once it starts getting cold, I think North Jersey, and I think now it's starting to get into your area a little bit, it gets hammered with snow. But I didn't get smoked with snow like that when I
No.
was in school.
Oh.
Like, when I was in high school and I was in middle school, like in South Jersey, I didn't get hit with snow like that.
I mean,
We had our days, we had our situations where like we had snow days, but like,
Yeah.
by and large, like, you guys didn't get hit like that either in high school.
in high school, no. In middle school, I noticed it a lot more.
Yeah.
I noticed myself
warming up, man.
with a lot more snow days in middle school than I did. And once I started getting into high school, it felt like we never had a snow day. Mm-hmm. But I heard this winter is going to be a big one for snow. But that's we're a long ways from winter.
It's so inconvenient, snow at this point in my life. Like, I can't afford it. Like, dollar amount per hourly. Like,
Yeah.
obviously people work a lot from home, but like, if you are on the move for some of your work, like especially when I go to the facility and when I get to my new spot, you got to be on the move to go get there. And I don't,
Yeah.
even if you live close, it doesn't matter. If the snow's 20 inches, like, you ain't getting out of your car. Like,
No.
So, that part of it is just inconvenient, but I remember I loved snow days.
You would wake up and you would check your phone to see if you saw your name of
Every
the
15
school.
minutes. Every 15 minutes.
Not every 5 minutes. I
Yeah.
was like, is my school gonna be there for closure today?
Yep.
The worst was seeing a 2-hour delay. I think I hated that more than just going to school.
Yeah, I'd rather just be there.
Like, don't tease me with a 2-hour delay.
2-hour delay was nice though, in a lot of respects, because the classes got shorter.
Yeah.
You had to get out of school at 2, so they give you an extra. Your classes are now, instead of like 55 minutes, they're like 40. So it's nice. It is nice.
It is, but snow days were the best.
These were a breeze.
I can't even fathom being in like Texas or down south where you don't have snow days,
Yeah.
don't have that option. That stinks, but
Well, now they have it because their infrastructure, like we talked about prior,
Yeah.
is not there. So when it snows in like Houston and it snows like 4 inches, they're
when
like,
was that? That was a few years ago where it was like they got like 1 inch and they were shut down for weeks.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
yeah, it happens.
was
I got a
crazy.
couple friends out in Houston, in Austin, Texas, who said the same thing. They're like, man, we're not ready for like 6 inches of snow.
But
like,
just like we're not ready for 110-degree days up here. We get our
which is
hot
weird
days.
because we've always had, climate wise, we've always had hot days. We've had the 4 seasons, and now I think it's really like 3.25 seasons. Like, your fall is really about a month, and this is supposed to be the fall, so like it's about 75 degrees. and
It's a little warmer than usual.
it's warmer than usual, but then when it drops down, it's going to drop for like maybe 2-3 weeks, and then it's done. It's winter now.
Yep.
So like, once we get into November, we're going to start seeing the effects of just like straight up winter.
Yeah, I'm I'm not opposed to that. Like I said,
I'm
I
not
like
opposed
the
to it at
winter,
all.
but obviously people don't.
Yeah, no, I'm with. I like the winter when it's supposed to be winter.
Right.
I'm good. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I don't like when it's winter like in March.
Yeah,
When it's cold in March and April,
April's
way
the
it is.
worst, especially coming from that baseball background of when it hits April and you're scrimmaging in the snow.
Northeast fastballs, baby.
That
82 to 84.
just, especially at least my senior year when we had scrimmages, we were scrimmaging kids that threw 96 with 3 feet of two-seam run.
Yeah.
And I was scared for my fists and hands for my life.
Dude, it's horrible.
But,
Disgusting.
that's the grit of Northeast baseball.
That is the
right
grit,
there.
man. That is the grit. It's the salt of the earth type of kids right there.
Yeah. Northeast baseball, Northeast players in general came up a little different.
That's why you got to go travel and see different places, and go to and hopefully take the chance to go down south to go play some ball too if you can do it. As I was traveling this weekend, and one of the things I thought about, are you willing? And you've also expressed this too, but how often are you willing to travel alone versus travel with others? And do you travel with friends and people? You've talked about not having friends, but we're gonna get you some friends.
I'm gonna find
so
some.
It's gonna happen.
At some point, I'm going to
At
have no choice.
At some point, you're gonna have no choice but to hang out with some friends.
Okay.
But traveling places alone versus traveling with people. Talk to me about that.
So, I mean,
I was thinking about it this weekend.
first off, I'm not a big traveler as it is, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't travel too often. You travel a lot more than I do.
Yeah.
For work mostly, but
Mm-hmm.
you travel more than I do. When I do travel, I prefer to fly solo.
Right.
I don't really like to have to wait on people and, be with other people flying. It's a little scarier, obviously, because I don't like planes that much.
Right,
And they're the
right.
safest form of travel. I'm very aware. Thank you. You don't have to tell me in the comments. But flying is not, I'm not the most comfortable.
Why is that, by the way?
I don't know, because it's the safest way to travel, but if it goes wrong,
But that's what I'm asking, I guess. Like, why is it the safest form of travel? Like, I would love to learn because I didn't know that was the case.
so why I can't quite explain to you. I don't
We're
know
gonna
the
look this up.
the physics and all that behind it, but
I'm looking this up.
I know I was watching it was a video on paradoxes and like all of that stuff, and I think a plane was like it might have been 100-something thousand that you would get into a plane crash versus a car crash is like I think it was like 1 in 100.
Okay.
And I think that comes to there's a lot more cars on the road than there are planes in the sky. And not to say there's not a lot of planes in the sky, but you're not going to have a plane crash midair with another plane with our air traffic controllers and all of that. That's just not going to happen.
Which they say that's the most stressful job in the world.
I believe it.
I do believe it.
because-
Okay, so here we go. We have why air travel is the safest mode of transportation. It says as technology in the industry has advanced to have passenger safety as a principal consideration, airplane seats can withstand 16 times gravity force. These seats are also fireproof and do not emit toxic fumes if they were to catch on fire. Interesting.
Well, I mean, that's cool and all, but pilots have a lot of training. They have to do years and years and years before they can get behind a commercial airplane. Drivers, you can be 95 years old and still have your license. You can get on the road. You can be 17 years old and have never been on the road, and they'll let you drive on your own. So I think
Yeah,
that's a consideration.
Yeah, and it's saying stuff about, planes go over different terrain, mountains and
I mean,
water and all the different things that you can't do in a car. But like that's so obvious though. That's low hanging fruit answers to me.
yeah.
It did say the fatality rate is different. I think it's like 158 fatalities in like 2022 or something like that on a plane versus like 20,000 in a car.
Yeah.
But it's like there's more cars on the road.
Yeah, that's,
So like I don't think it's even comparable to like why it's safer. Like I would say like is it safer traveling like in a bus versus a car?
Is that a question?
I'm asking that, like, that would be to me with like the question I would
Oh,
pose.
the more comparable
Yeah, the
question
more
to
comparable
ask.
question.
Okay.
Like,
I got you. Yeah, I follow you.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting.
But I mean, I think I just feel a little more uncomfortable flying, A, because I'm not in control.
Mm-hmm.
I can't fly the plane. And B, I drive a car every single day. So it's
Yeah.
just like I'm numb to it.
Right,
And I'm
right.
sure if I flew enough, I'll just be numb to it. And I've heard that people that fly a lot, it's just like getting into a car with them.
Yeah.
They just don't think twice about it. But, I'm still uncomfortable flying. But back to the question, I prefer to fly solo. If I'm doing a road trip, I
Mm-hmm.
would like to go with people. I would not like to drive on my own for that long.
I was thinking about that too. A road trip. I've been on several road trips before
I've been on a few.
with a couple people, and I've been with several. And road trip being like the furthest we've gone is to Florida, to Miami.
Yeah,
And
I've
like,
done Florida a few times.
That's a deep trip. It's a deep, deep trip, but it's fun when you have, and it's only, and realistically, like, please talk about in the comments your road trip experiences, guys, because like, I think that that's something that people overrate. I think that it's underrated how bad a trip gets after like 5 or 6 hours. Like,
Yeah.
it seems great. It's fun when you have people who are willing to like go through hell with you, but like, if you have one or two people who are complaining at least like 60% of the time, it's a nightmare. Like, you're stopping every 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't you can't even see the light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to driving. Some days where you're like, okay, I got 13 more hours to go, and I just went 10. Like, Jesus Christ.
And this person won't stop complaining about how far we got to go.
Yeah, and now they feel like it's a mistake. You feel like it's a mistake that you brought them. You're regretting the entire time. You're like, what the hell am I doing with this? But it's still a good time, and I think everybody should do it because it does test your patience, it tests your willpower, like it tests just the level of understanding that you have with people, and it's a wild thing. But I was gonna say, would you do a full road trip, like country road trip?
I would, but I would only do it with someone. I would do it with RJ.
Yeah.
Shout out to RJ because he's told me he's been on country road trips. Like he's
Yeah.
been to every state. I don't know if he did it at once, but he's driven the country.
Yeah.
He's got funny stories about breaking down in like the middle of Utah on a desert. So we need to have him on to talk about that.
Oh my
He's a
goodness.
traveler, so he can have travel stories. But yes, I would do a country road trip specifically with RJ, just because he knows what he's doing. He can survive in the wilderness with like nothing if he had to.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a very very reliable person to go on.
Yeah.
And he's just fun. Like I can hang out with him all day. I was with him for like 16 hours Saturday, Sunday, both days.
Yeah.
And I just don't get sick of him. He's one of those people that is just like, there's some people you gravitate towards because they're just great people and you
Yeah.
can see that they're genuine and see that they're fun
They
to
just
be
got
around.
they got a good heart. They got a good heart and a
Yeah.
good head on their shoulders, and you could just tell they have energy that's like, they ooze that energy and that
Yeah.
confidence. Yeah.
It's undeniable energy that he has that I could just spend weeks on end with him if we were traveling the country. So
It's a skill. That's a
Yes.
skill that somebody has, is that they have that, they're energetic in their energy, and they have a good aura about who they are. That's what you want from people.
Yeah.
Well, which is funny because that's what I was going to ask here is, are there any skills you think you could use or you need to take your career or your life to the next level?
I think so. There's two lanes I go with this question. It's the technical skills
Yeah.
and it's the soft skills.
Break it down.
The soft skills, I would classify you as having a lot of the soft skills required to be successful in a career, whatever you choose.
Soft skills like what?
As in communication, being personable, being able to not manipulate people, but
Sure.
like be able to work with people and have push and pull that you need in business, at least in
Getting
a career.
what you want while also giving them what they need.
Yes. Being able to get your value while providing value is, I classify that as a soft skill. I don't think there's technical like measurements for that. So I put it in the soft
I never
skill.
actually heard of it in the word of soft skill.
Yeah.
I like what you're saying though. Like, explain how you got to soft skills or where you heard that from.
So I don't know where exactly I heard it from.
Okay.
I was just I'm always researching like how to be better in certain areas, and then I went on the rabbit hole of like communication, how to be a better communicator, and I think that's where I ended up finding soft skills, the term. So that's my two lanes now, is like where can I learn technical skills and how do I get better at soft skills that aren't so much as teachable as the technical.
Right.
So I think those two lanes are skills that obviously are needed, but I'm more down the lane of technical skill.
Yeah.
Because at least if I'm an outsider looking in on my life, I don't have the soft skills as much as maybe you do.
Yeah.
You just like I'm using you as an example because you're sitting right in front of me, but I am not as communicative, as able to just be push and pull with people as much as maybe you are. I'm more of the back end, sit at my desk and work on technical abilities that'll push myself towards a career goal or being better in a certain career.
Sure.
And obviously those technical skills are specified towards that career that you're searching for. And that's actually, it's interesting that you asked that because I was thinking about it last night. In my life, I look at my life, I want to just be able to be a skilled man and have as much skills as possible and maybe not be a master of every skill, but if something comes up where I need to like change that electric volt right there, I can do it.
Right.
So that's my perspective on life, is have as many technical skills so that I could provide for a family, so that I could survive if I needed to.
Yeah, take you from good to great and whatever you're trying to do.
So
it's interesting. Okay.
I'm interested to hear like what you think about when you think about skills and what you try and advance yourself in, because at least from my perspective, you're a very communicative, very soft skill person. Yeah. And obviously you have the technical skills. You're running a company. You have the things you need. But that's just how I see you. And I'm interested to see what's your take on, like, at least what you think about or what you strive to be better at.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think every day I think about the things that I was doing, especially when I travel too, and like when I'm traveling for work and I look at the reasons why I'm doing it there, and whether it's going to Miami, whether it's going to Boston or going to New York or going anywhere that I'm going to for business opportunities, and meeting people along the way, and they look at what I do as something it brings value, and it's continuing to bring value in a space where I'm helping our athletes, I'm helping other athletes, but I'm also helping the company grow, helping podcast grow. We're helping our own podcast grow, and one of my biggest goals this year, especially in 2023 for me, was execution. Like, I want to be an executor as opposed to a idea-driven person. Like, the ideas are great and you can always have a ton of ideas and there's always infrastructure around the ideas, but I wanted to build the skills of being an executor. I want people to think of me as like, every time that they talk to me about something, it's because they know I'm going to get it done, as opposed to like, I'm going to get it done and it's going to grow. Not just like, yeah, we can still just keep chopping it up about the idea and see that like maybe one day it'll stick. Like, no, I want it to be, we talked about doing this and now it's happening. Like, and it's real. So that was and every year I think I want to figure out one more goal to have as far as what skill I want to hone in on. Because one thing I've learned, I think there's people who've talked about multitasking isn't good for people. But I also think that depends on the person, and I think it depends on the level of multitasking you're trying to obtain. So, like, I think you should work on 2 or 3 things in your life, but you need to have the goal, I think, timeline in order. Like, it's hard to work on 3 things at once in the same time, at the same intensity, in the same year. Like, that's a really hard thing to do. But if you said, I got 3 goals, and I'm going to put 20% into one goal, and that's going to take me like 2 years, but the other thing I'm going to put 40% in, and then the other 40% I'm going to put into something else. And now, like, but one of the 40% goals is going to take you like 2 years. And then your other 40% goal is going to take you like a year. So like one of those you're working at a little bit harder than the other, or with a little bit more intent, but you're all still working at these things with intent. And then at that point, wherever you position yourself in the proximity you have in your life, like, one of those might start getting more attention than the other. And so eventually you're going to have to decide what's going to take more attention for you in that moment to finish it, like, or essentially expedite that process. So my 20% goal that I had for 2 years, maybe I met somebody who's going to now start making that like the main goal.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen faster because now I got the help. So now that goal goes over the 40% goals, and now those things start to pull down a second, but not too far, right? So like, it's a really what would you call the brain capacity for that? It's hyperactive.
Okay.
It's really hyperactive with the amount of things you have at once. So like right now, it's like I'm at the facility, right? I'm finding a new facility, and I'm going to be running some of the strength there, and I'm going to be doing some of the baseball there with all the training. I'm going to be head of player development in some of these spots. Then I also have the agency certifications that I'm doing, and that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
And then I'm also running the company, and then I'm also doing the podcast. And then I'm also making sure that I do brand merch. And then we're also doing merchandise for us. And we're also running the podcast. So like for the other people, so like there's about 6 to 8 things on the plate, and it's all multitasking. Mm-hmm. And I'm also representing athletes. So like there's about 10 or 12 things that I have to figure out a day. And they're all getting about what would you try to have as much even attention to each one, but it's just not the case. You just can't have as much even attention, which is why you get help.
Yeah.
And so for me going into 2024, my goal is to continue to find people which skill I want to be able to identify the people who are going to help me execute at the level I want to execute at. Mm-hmm. And so, and finding people's really tough because you got to find a level of trust. Like your level of trust with people has to go through the roof in some ways, but I also want to not work with people that I like sometimes. I think that's one of my next things too.
To work with people that you don't like?
Yeah, because I think there's an unbiased nature in that,
right? Which
I really like. I like things that are unbiased and objective. So like, no matter how you see it, like whether it's you see it one way subjectively or they see it one way subjectively, I need objectivity to be like in the middle and at the forefront of it. And like if we don't have that, then and that's where like working with friends, I've seen that a lot, man. Like, and that's where a podcast I think has been the middle ground for a lot of people, where you can have it's almost like it's set up like a business that like there's 2 separate opinions.
Yeah.
Which is really fun. Like I think that's fun about why I like doing the podcast, because we've known each other for a long time, but it's a business that we're creating, but right now it doesn't have to be business. No. Right? Like it's business in the practices that we are. Like you got to get here on time. You got to make sure you prepare to talk and have the things that you want to say. And then once the money starts coming in, it's like, well, it's 2 of us. So it's 50-50, it's easy. But then once you start getting people around it, you start getting production, you start getting graphics, you start getting all these different people around you. Eventually you have a full staff, and you got to make sure everybody gets paid. You got to make sure they're doing the right thing. I see what their value is, how much their value is versus your own value. And like, do I really need that person? And that's the business side that like, you don't really necessarily want to get involved in, because like, that's the part where it's not just a podcast anymore. Mm-hmm. It becomes more than what it is. So I like the objectivity of learning from people who don't have a vested interest yet. And so that's what I'm trying to identify. And I want the skills to be able to identify those people, because in business for myself and for other people as well, I think everybody who's echoed this to me are people who've been successful, is that you need to find the people who are good at their job, who are objectively smart and objectively going to push back and pull back on certain things that are important in your life, important in your business, so that you can make the right decision as opposed to the decision with your heart or decision emotionally, So that's why I take out emotion in pretty much everything I do, unfortunately. Like, and it doesn't make you a bad guy. And you don't always have to be a nice guy. And that's also another skill too, is taking away from being a nice guy and being a good guy. Right? Like people think people think a good guy has to be really, really nice to everybody. And it's like, it's not always being nice. We're innately nice people, but a good guy is going to do the right thing as opposed to the nice thing. And the nice people are just, we're going to people please. No, you don't want to do that.
That's like the argument in relationships or talking to whoever you're into, women, guys, whatever. It's like the argument of being nice versus being kind.
Yeah.
They at least it's been studied, or it's been shown that nice guys finish last in today's world.
Yeah, no, good guys are in the front, man. Good guys are in the front.
Because
sure.
yeah, I mean, you can be kind and not get taken advantage of. The nice guys always come off as weak in today's world, and that's how they end up last. But you can always be kind, and you said objectivity of being objective in life. That's one of my main things that I try and hold myself accountable for, is not being subjective in what I look at and using my own emotions, like you said. I'm all about being objective, taking all the other nonsense away from a situation and looking at the facts, the numbers, whatever it is, in order to make the right decision moving forward. That's something I'm working on. Another thing you said that stuck out that I wanted to just touch on is goals. I don't think I have in my life. I was thinking about it as you were talking, as I was listening. I don't think I've written down goals for myself starting a new year, which is something that I definitely think I should do.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see what it looks like next year if I do that, if and when I do that, because at least setting goals in my eyes is a great thing, something to work towards, but I don't know exactly why I haven't.
Yeah.
And does that...
It's surprising to me because you seem like a guy who's got things in order when it comes to how you want to execute something, and you have pretty sizable plans of what you're trying to accomplish. So like goals would be extremely in line with your thought process and vision of like what you're trying to obtain. Like you're trying to be a IBJJF champion. Like, well, there's some things you have to do prior to getting to that. And it's not that it's going to be necessarily harder than the goals you may have with like your own internal self, but like there's still a plan there, right? Like, and the plan doesn't always have to be, because planning is hard, right? Because planning feels like if you don't execute the plan, then you'd failed. It's like, well, you got to have some leeway inside of your goals. Like, hey, maybe I didn't, and that's where like for me, there's certain goals that I have like that are like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10-year goals. And so if you hit it earlier,
great,
you're like, yeah, I'm nailing these things. I'm knocking these things off.
Yeah.
So, becoming an agent was one of my goals I thought I was going to do by like the age of 30. And I did it at 26. So like that for me was like, I'm knocking things out. There's nothing that's really going to stop me at this point. You know what I mean? Like, so, and now you bought yourself an extra 4 years. You see what I'm saying? Like I bought myself more time, which like if I nailed it at the time I was doing it, which means like I put the head down, I locked in on certain areas of my life that I needed to. So now I can start to see that I don't have to take 5 years to do something. You know what I mean? Like it can actually take me maybe a year, and it's just executing in certain areas and sacrificing in others. And like, I don't think you have any reasons to not to sacrifice. I don't think you have any issues with sacrificing either. So,
no, I don't. But
write them down, man.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about why I don't maybe set goals, or why I don't maybe write things down that I plan on doing. And I said plan as in, but I think it comes down to, at least in my head, I don't at least set goals at the beginning of the year, because then I feel I put pressure on myself that maybe it's not even worth it to put that type of pressure on myself. And that's something I've been kind of thinking about a lot lately, and trying to figure out maybe what's the right answer, what's not the right way to go. Putting pressure on myself in life versus maybe not putting so much pressure on myself.
Yeah.
And I'm leaning on the not putting much pressure on myself. And I don't know why. I've been watching, I've been reading, I've been listening, I've been watching things on maybe what I should do. And I haven't come to a conclusion yet if I should be hard on myself, because throughout my baseball career, all the way up through college, I was super hard on myself.
Yeah.
Like super hard, to the point of if I wasn't 4 for 4 every single game in my senior year of high school, it was a failure.
Now, did you like that feeling? Did you not have did you have a problem with feeling pressure?
In the baseball sense, I never really did.
Okay.
There was never.
And why do you think that was?
The only thing I can really think of is because of how long I was doing it, and it was almost second nature, and I was on a baseball field every day, so it was like the pressure's not going to get to me at this point.
So think about that, right? So like habitually, you created excellent habits, which was why you did never felt the pressure in doing something, right? So like putting your head down and making and putting the work in, you never felt like you weren't prepared to do something. And sometimes that's of you weren't afraid of the success either.